Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Sportsman, and we've got a massive game on Tuesday night: England versus Germany. And who better to talk us through England Germany than Stuart Pearce, who played in two huge games against Germany at major tournaments? Stuart, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah. Really looking forward to this game. It'll be a big one, to say the least.
I think we all couldn't wait once it was finally confirmed that Germany finished second in Group F. But could you take us back to Italia 90? What were you doing in the build up to that semi final?
We got a really good bit of momentum going during the tournament. I wouldn't say we started the tournament particularly well, but the momentum grew. We were playing some decent football en route, and I think by the time we ended up ready to play the Germans, we felt as though we had a real match winner in Paul Gascoigne in our ranks. Also, as well, certain individuals were having outstanding tournaments. Lineker was scoring goals. Des Walker was outstanding at the heart of defence, and right through the team, we had real confidence about ourselves.
And were you aware going into that game that this was, potentially the biggest match you would ever play in your career?
Well, you hope that there was going to be one after that, if I'm being honest with you, about 4 days later against the Argentinians. But looking back now, it was by far the biggest game I've played in. I think to get to the latter stages of a World Cup playing for your country takes some doing. But it was my first tournament. So in many ways, I didn't really know what to expect from it. It was all new territory to me as a player. But a really enjoyable one. Looking back now, I have so many fond memories of that tournament and that game.
And could you talk us through kind of the emotions you were feeling through that game? Was it just purely focusing on the football, or were you aware of the occasion almost?
I think the build-up, you're acutely aware of the occasion, the build-up to it. The fact that you were playing Germany as well always makes it that little bit special in the footballing calendar for England. And just really when the game started, it's almost a nervousness. You're pleased the game's underway. You want to make sure that you don't get injured in the build up to the game in training. I was on a booking as well. Like Gazza ended up getting booked, and he missed the third and fourth place playoff. He'd have missed the final. I was on one booking as well. So if I'd have got booked in that game, I'd have missed potentially the next game or the final. So that was on my mind as well, playing the game.
And obviously, they've got rid of the yellow card rule in the semi-finals now, which is good. So nobody will have Gazza's tears if we get to that stage this time around. But what were you thinking when you saw him slide in and get that yellow card? Were you aware of the tears and the Lineker conversation that followed? From your point of view, how was it?
Yes, I saw it. As I say, because it was acute on my mind, if you like, because I knew I could suffer the same fate. And during the game, I think it might have even been the first or second half, can't remember, but I remember I made a rash challenge as well and apologised, got up like Gazza did, because we knew. And I'm so pleased for players in the future that this rule has been amended. I really am, because it's a horrible place to be. You saw the reaction of Gazza, to know that you've worked that hard to get there and actually going to miss a final, or if you got to the final.
Did you try and speak to him on the pitch when it happened, or were there other people doing that?
No, Gary got to him, and Gary was aware of the situation. Also, I think you saw on the pitch how he told the bench as well to make sure that they try to settle him down a little bit. You saw the emotion on his face, but credit to Gazza, he done everything in his powers to try and get England to a final.
And then we move on to that penalty shootout, of course. Was there any preparation done in the build-up?
It was ad hoc practice, really. Obviously, Gary Lineker would practice being the penalty taker. And I think he had 2 in the quarters as well against Cameroon. So he'd had plenty of match practice in regard to that. The rest of us, it was ad hoc, really, when we ended up getting to sort of knockout stages. I think the good thing nowadays is there's more of an exact science about it. Gareth will be very thorough because of his history as well about the preparation. So if it does go to penalties on Tuesday, which isn't an outlandish thing to think, I think we'll be very prepared for that.
Was Gazza down to take a penalty, or was it just a case of he wasn't in the right frame of mind, so he wasn't put forward?
I'm not sure. I don't think there was any defining order put forward beforehand. It was all left until after the game from memory. So I think the penalty takers that they had up to take penalties, I said the only one who wasn't an actual penalty taker for his club was Chris Waddle, So apart from that, everyone else was a recognised penalty taker for their club.
And I know you might not want to, but could you talk us through your penalty, walking forward from the halfway line? What was going through your mind, and what did you want to do?
To get good contact was really important for me. You know, I'd made my mind up before to go down the middle in the hope that the goalkeeper was going to move one way or the other. I got good contact on the ball, but the goalkeeper moved to his right but left his legs there and managed to get something in the way and a barrier to stop the ball, you know. So credit to him, that it always takes someone to do it. But for me, it taught me some wonderful lessons coming out of that game. It hurt at the time, there's no doubt about that. But certainly going forward, it taught me a lot of lessons. And as well, preparation when I've worked with teams that have potentially been in penalty shootouts, it's sharpened my focus.
For sure. And do you have any memories of the feeling when it hit his legs and didn't go in?
I think you think that you're hoping that one of your teammates is going to bail you out. You're also hoping that the goalkeeper is going to save, hopefully, the next penalty to just draw us back level again. That wasn't to happen, but I think at that stage you sort of go into this sort of world where you're so close to being touching a World Cup final, let's say, and then you acutely aware that the fact that you've missed a penalty has put your country in such a perilous position. So it was a crushing blow for me. It was afterwards, a lot of tears after the game, a lot of tears the following day when I met my family and whatever. But I think at the end of it, when I look back, it's probably just made me stronger and more hard-nosed, as in my profession.
I presume back then there wasn't any sort of mental health help, or did you speak to anyone about those emotions you were feeling? Because I think if that happened now, there'd be more qualified professionals to help deal with those emotions. Was there anything like that back in 1990?
There wasn't, and probably I would have dealt with it myself. I'm strong enough character certainly to deal with those type of things. As I say, it done me. When I look back now, I had the following season, I had the best season I ever had playing for my club. The following year, I think I got 16 goals, no penalties in that from left back, and it probably, I don't know, if anything, it made me stronger as a character. I got a lot of abuse when I went round the grounds from away fans and whatever, and that's part and parcel of the game, I suppose. But for me, it just, it made me more steely and more determined, if you like, where a lot of the players come back from there and were citing sort of fatigue from a long season and playing on into July. For me, it was I couldn't wait for the next season to get going and get back playing football again.
Yeah, and we then moved forward to 1996 and the next semi-final against Germany. Did it feel different that time around, home soil, Wembley?
Definitely did. I was, a lot older, a lot wiser. It was 6 years older, but I was in my 30s then. I'd sort of made my mind up to retire from international football after that tournament. So I probably enjoyed the tournament that much more because it wasn't my first tournament. I knew what to come. I knew what a footballing environment at a tournament was like. And really sort of, I probably soaked in more of the atmosphere and more of the occasion than ever I did 6 years previous to that, So for me, it was a wonderful occasion to play football, wonderful tournament. It really was. And home soil made it that much special.
And that's obviously something we'll have again on Tuesday night, not quite a full stadium, but back in 96, nearly 100,000 people there. Just what was that noise like when you walked out of the tunnel and sang the national anthem?
It was just, the momentum at the tournament just grew and grew. It really did. And by the time we got to the semi-final against Germany, it's very difficult to tell people that weren't in the stadium that day. It's by far the best environment. That tournament and the atmosphere in Wembley was by far the best tournament and environment I've ever played football in for an atmosphere. Bear in mind, we had the vast majority of our fans behind us. The anthem of Three Lions being sung as well as the national anthem was a special occasion that summer. And I think, maybe people, supporters fell in love with football again, and people that weren't interested in football might have sort of almost fell in love with the game as well.
Yeah, a special tournament for sure. Which semi-final loss against Germany holds more regret for you, or which one would you have rather won?
I have the impression that if we'd have won the semi-final, we'd have probably won both finals. That's, you know, I may be deluded in that statement, but I honestly believe that momentum would have drove us over the line. Probably, whilst the atmosphere at 96 was that much special, the one 6 years previous was a World Cup. We're talking about every team in world football were involved in this. And the fact that our country, the only trophy we have is a World Cup as well. So to emulate the greats of Bobby Charlton and Bobby Moore and all those boys that done so well winning it in the 60s, I think that would have been very, very special.
Do you think Southgate now, I know you know him very closely, know him as a human, do you think he'll be thinking about finally putting that penalty miss from 1996 to bed this time around?
What he'll do, because of the nature of the person he is now, thorough he is, he'll be looking to empower his players and make sure his players are more prepared than he was and I was when we took penalties for England. And I think you saw that back in 2018 when his team ended up beating Colombia. Jordan Pickford took a penalty. The only reason a goalkeeper takes a penalty is because you've done the practice and the hard yards with him. And some of those staff that work with him now in the preparation of penalty taking and the analysis of that were there with me with the under 21. So I know how much detail they put in. And I would fair to say that England might well be the most prep side for a penalty shootout in world football. So if we end up getting beaten in a penalty shootout on Tuesday, I'll know that the homework has been done. The best 5 penalty takers would be put up to take a penalty. And beyond that, it will be a sequence of the best penalty takers. I don't think that's been the case in the past. Certainly, Gareth had hardly ever taken a penalty. Chris Waddle had hardly ever taken a penalty in his career. So thoroughness will be on our side. We've got to expect the Germans will be thorough as well, and then see where it takes us if we have to go that far.
Yeah, hopefully we get the job done in the 90 or 120 minutes. But I'm confident on penalties now. Pickford as well saved one in a tournament too. So can you try and sum up for us? Obviously, you've done it twice. What is it like facing Germany in particular in a knockout competition? Obviously, they've won the World Cup several times, won European championships, an elite nation when it comes to winning trophies. What's it like to face Germany?
Germany are elite winners at international level. Make no mistake about that. They win at the younger age groups and they also win at senior age groups as well with the senior team. When you take on the Germans, they're going to have probably some real world-class players in their ranks. They in the 2 tournaments that I played against them in, they had some top-class players, world-class players in their ranks. When you look at them now, same again. They got players playing at top clubs all over Europe. I think the culture, we're very similar as well as nations in some ways, the English and the Germans, in regard to our love of football and the way the fans, the euphoria that the fans bring to stadiums and whatever. And I think that's what makes it that much special. So all over our footballing career, and the fact that the only time we've ever won a trophy has been against the Germans. I think the good thing is we're on home soil again. 2 tournaments on home soil have seen us lift a trophy and get beaten in the semi-final. That is quite powerful. And I think that the side know that they've generated a little bit of euphoria. And the important thing for me, Simon, is after the game, someone said to me, who would you rather play at this round? And I said, if I can guarantee us winning the game, beating the Germans psychologically will give us such a boost and a lift that I think it might sweep us all the way to the final and the trophy. I really do, with the lift it will give the players.
Also, yeah, if we get past the Germans, it does seem like the draw opens up a bit. If we can get past this hurdle, I think we've got a good chance of making the final. Let's just touch on the Czech Republic performance, a 1-0 win, a decent performance. Probably most importantly, we've got minutes for Maguire and Henderson. Do you think we can take momentum forward from the group stage, or is it a case of, right, job done, now the real business starts?
A bit of both, if I'm being honest with you. Job done, clean sheets, no goals conceded, where a question mark, we spoke earlier, question mark about can we keep clean sheets in the tournament? Well, we've kept 3 so far, might have to keep 1 or 2 more on the journey. as I say, a couple of the boys coming back from injury have got minutes. The only downside we've got is the 2 COVID boys, but hopefully they'll keep them fit and very close to it if they've got to contribute after the German game. And everyone's showing decent form. I think 2 of the performances were really good. First and third games were decent performances at this level. And Scotland is a standalone game. It always is. So I think there's so many positives to be taken out of what we've achieved in the group stage. Defensively, we look more assured. I thought the Czechs put a lot of dangerous crosses in the box and we dealt with them really, really well. And Gareth will be getting closer to knowing which player is his best formula.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And talking of a winning formula, Germany play with a back 5. We saw their wing backs cause Portugal all sorts of problems, scored 4 goals against them. They seem to struggle a bit against Hungary, who were playing a back 5 themselves. Do you think Gareth would potentially be tempted to kind of match them up with 5 at the back?
I think he'll certainly talk about it. There's no doubt him and his staff, Stevie Holland, will certainly talk through the scenario of maybe starting with more of a back 3, they would hope, than a 5, obviously. The good thing for England is they've got the ability to switch from a 3 to a 4 seamlessly, I believe, so they can do that either from the start of the game or in mid-action. And I think they would have talked through that scenario and maybe even worked on that scenario on the training pitch. But I'm not seeing him changing to a 3. I think he'll start with a 4 and try and impose our game on them and our style of play on them. But time will tell on that.
As I touched on there, Germany were incredibly impressive against Portugal, scoring goals, but they've been a bit shaky at the back, conceding a few as well. How do you see the game panning out?
It'll be a tight affair. Anyone that thinks it won't be or hasn't probably watched football over many years, it'll be a really tight affair. It wouldn't surprise me if it went to extra time. I think we've got the athleticism to cause them a problem. As long as Gareth gets the formula right, and I think he's done that very well in his team selection so far in this tournament, and players rise to the challenge that is Germany. And there's nothing to suggest with the players and their mentality that the game will be too much for them in any way, shape or form. They've been brilliant in all the games over a few years together. I think we'll end up winning the game. I really do. I don't think this is the strongest German side I've seen, but a side that's got to be respected.
For sure. And a couple of decisions to be made here. You played the position absolutely brilliant. I want to get your opinion on what you've made of Shaw and Trippier, both at left back so far. And who do you think should start there?
I would probably just err on the more natural left-sided player and play with Shaw, I think. I think both of them have played well. I thought Trippier played the left-back role really well in the first game, if I'm being honest with you. But I think Luke Shaw gives you a little bit more natural balance. I didn't think Luke played particularly... I was hoping for a bit more from the Scottish game, let's say. I thought he played better in the last game against the Czechs. He's on decent form. He's on good form. He can defend well, can get forward well, he can create. So he would be my choice to play, Luke.
And also, you touched on it there, Mount in isolation. Saka performed an incredible performance he put in against the Czech Republic. Do you think Mount will come into the side, or do you think he'll be used off the bench, included in the squad? I think it seems like Chilwell hasn't had any action so far, so I think we can potentially rule him out. But Mason Mount's been a very important player for Southgate, and Saka really impressed against Czech Republic.
I think to bring 2 players in that have been in quarantine, not training with the team in the build-up, this is quite unusual to have a week's build-up between one game and the next in international football. Normally, the biggest luxury you'll get is 5 days. We've had a long build-up time, and in all that time, we're talking about both Chilwell and Mount not joining in until potentially on Monday. Now, for me, for a game of this magnitude, you couldn't consider them because they wouldn't have worked with a group in the build-up to it. So I would definitely draw a line under those 2 and not play them. The boys that started the game last time out have done very, very, very little to rule themselves out of the game. I thought Saka was arguably our best player. Grealish, I thought, played well in the game and showed good arrogance on the ball. I think it'll be very difficult for him to change the team. If he does, it might be at most one player.
Yeah, for sure. Some really impressive performances. And I've enjoyed hearing your starting 11s in the previous games, Stuart. So if we are playing a back four, if Pickford's in goal, Luke Shaw's at left back, could you run us through the rest of the team?
It would be Kyle Walker. I think he played very well in the last game without being eye-catching. I thought he's worked, he just knows international football now. I would go Stones and Maguire again. It will be Rice, the deeper of the two, with Phillips just in front of him, Grealish, Saka, Sterling and Harry Kane. I wouldn't change the starting lineup. The only question mark he might have is maybe Phil Foden, but I'm not sure he'll make that call. I think Saka played extremely well and he trusts Sterling in the wide area. So that will be the starting lineup. And as I've said before many times, in modern day football with 5 substitutes, the starting lineup is important, but it's not critical.
Yeah, for sure. And Saka, obviously, if he starts on that right wing, that means in game, without making a substitution, we can switch to a back five and match them up wing backs. He's very good defensively as well. So, Stuart, ideally on Tuesday night, exactly how does this game pan out for you, and what is the perfect way for England to win?
Well, in a perfect way to save energy would be winning over 90 minutes. I think getting the first goal will be really important in the game. I think we've got to counter-attack them very quickly and just probably show a bit more inventiveness if they do decide to take us on and sit back and say, right, we're going to defend quite deep and see if you can break us down. It's just that little bit of inventiveness to try and break them down. Thought Harry Kane done really well dropping deep in the last game and having more touches of the ball. And also as well, a big part of our game, certainly in the first game and the third game, when we played balls from all areas of the pitch in behind their back line to turn them round for runners, we looked a real threat. And sometimes you've got to turn teams round to get the space in front of them to play. And I think it's really important that we do that. Make sure we encourage our 2 wide players to run in behind the opposition, Harry Kane to get on the ball, and the other players, especially the midfield boys, to look to play balls in behind them, because I don't think they're the most mobile of backlines, the Germans.
Yeah, they've definitely been got at so far this tournament. So let's finish this Germany preview with, Stuart, your score prediction for Tuesday night, the biggest one so far.
I think we'll win 2-1.
2-1, I love that.
Yeah, I think
we'll get the first goal, Harry Kane to score. We didn't quite get it against Czech Republic.
Yeah, he's not had too many efforts in and around the box, but the thing is, when you play the better sides, I think he'll be freed up to have a bit more space within the game, and I think it just might suit him. He's a big game player, Harry, a top quality international, and I think if you're going to announce yourself on a tournament, do it against Germany for us.
We would love that, wouldn't we? Thanks very much for joining us again, Stuart. We'll catch up again, hopefully next week when England are through to the quarterfinals, but we'll have to wait and see. I can't wait for Tuesday night.